Hello everyone, and welcome to Church History from the 16th through the 20th centuries. This is Dr. Todd Brenneman, Associate Professor of Church History, as well as the Undergraduate Department Chair for the College of Biblical Studies. Looking over the roster, I know several of you have had you in class before, so your names were quite recognizable to me, and a few of you I didn't know, so hopefully you will take time to go to the discussion board and introduce yourself a little bit, not only to me but to your fellow students. In this video, I wanted to give a brief overview of the course and talk a little bit about expectations, what you could expect for the entirety of the course, as well as what to think about for each week. As you prepare for this course, in some ways I've tried to structure it like a regular course, face-to-face course, but in other ways you do have the freedom of an asynchronous course, meaning that you can participate as you have the time through out a particular week to complete each week's assignments. So let's just talk a little bit about what we are going to be doing this semester in this course. In many respects, what we are focused on, as would be suggested by the title of the course, is an overview of modern church history. In a very, very introductory way, we're trying to cover several hundred years in just 16 weeks. And because of that, there's a lot that we won't discuss, a lot that we will leave out. We'll try to hit the highlights. I've tried to be as comprehensive as possible, as well as recognizing that we are limited in what we can say. So in many respects, this is a selective view of church history from the 16th to the 20th centuries. And really we could call it to the present, because we'll talk about the 21st century a little bit at the end of the semester. But we're just looking at the modern period, the period from the Reformation to the present. Some of you have had both the Survey of Church History course as well as perhaps the Early Church to the Reformation course. In some places there will be some overlap, especially if you've taken the Survey course. The Early Church course, of course, does not include this period. But hopefully this will be a more in-depth exploration, and so if you've taken Survey of Church History already, there'll be some things that you will recognize, and then other things that will be hopefully new. If you haven't taken a church history course before, hopefully it's not necessary. We won't be relying on that background, and so you can come to this course with absolutely no knowledge of church history from the time period we're looking at. Specifically in that, we'll be looking at a variety of people, and so we'll be thinking about individuals at times, but we'll also be talking about movements or groups, and thinking about things and groups of people, collectives, as opposed to just individuals. We'll also be looking at not only what these people believed, but also what they did, both their actions as well as what we might call their rituals. Again, the idea is to be as comprehensive in the totality of religious experience in this period, in thinking about how Christianity has interacted with so many different aspects. It's not just about what people believed, it's about what they did, both in church buildings and outside of church buildings, how that affected society and how society affected it. And so hopefully, we will get a good overview of the totality of experience and not just focus on any one particular thing or any one particular group. But also, the other purpose behind this, or another thing that we're going to try and do in this course, is think about how those historical things that we are looking at, those historical events, those historical people, how they have shaped contemporary Christianity. And so as we look at contemporary Christianity, and I'm using Christianity here in a very broad sense, that we will see that there are things that we see today that are dependent upon things in the past, and there are things that are different from the past. And so, I want us to not just think about the past, but also think about the present and think about where we are today in the 21st century and how that is a product of things that have gone before. There is only one textbook for this class that you should be able to find fairly inexpensively. Certainly, I would encourage you to go through the Blackboard store as far as an easy way to make sure you get the right textbook, but you can find this through other outlets as well. Justo Gonzalez's The Story of Christianity, particularly Volume 2, The Reformation to the Present Day, so it covers the period that we're looking at. Updated, so this is the second edition in 2010, so make sure you get the second edition. Like I said, a fairly inexpensive book, and you can get it in whatever format you particularly would prefer. I like the Gonzalez book because it is, it has that comprehensiveness, but there's also a readability to it. With it being published with Harper One, the audience is a more general audience, an educated audience in the sense that it's still written at a level that doesn't insult the intelligence of the reader, certainly, but is written at a level where you would not need any sort of background or necessarily have a degree in history or really an interest in the historical field to understand the terminology, to follow the narrative that Gonzalez tells. And so it's a very good book as far as a general interest reader might be interested in or might approach. So you don't necessarily have to have the goal of being a church historian to engage with Gonzalez's work. And so I think it's very readable, and hopefully it will be an enjoyable book to go through. You do need to get a copy of it as soon as possible. There are reading quizzes that we'll talk about in a little bit here, and they all come from the Gonzalez textbook. So you will need the Gonzalez textbook. Those reading quizzes start next week. So I would encourage you to, if you've not gotten it already, that you would get it as soon as possible. If for some reason there is a delay in getting the textbook, please get in contact with me about that so we can make sure to give you the opportunity to catch up on the reading quizzes once you have acquired the textbook. So if there are some issues with getting the text, please let me know those as soon as possible. So over the next 16 weeks, we will be moving through the period under discussion. We'll set the stage next week with some general examination of what was Christianity, what was the status of Christianity toward the end of the Middle Ages, kind of set that up a little bit so we have an idea of where we're looking at once we get into these different time periods. And then from that foundation, we will move by centuries, examining the different centuries in a sense, as self-contained units, although that is a very artificial way to talk about it. Certainly, people didn't think of themselves and don't think of themselves as existing solely within a contained century, and a lot of movements and events crossed across these century boundaries. But as far as an organizational schema, I think that helps us think about, for our purposes, to kind of contextualize some things, using the centuries as an outline. And so we'll move through those different centuries. They will serve as our markers for different aspects of Christianity. But then within those different time periods, we will be looking at 4 different content or categories that will help us understand the breadth of Christian influence as well as the things that influence Christianity. And so in each of those time periods, each of those centuries, we will be thinking about the political situations. What are some political events? What are some political developments that were either caused by Christianity or had an impact on Christianity? Again, these are selective. I've tried to be fairly broadly representative in not just looking at Western history and thinking about the influence of Western Christianity, though that certainly is, I do lean that way because my training is in American religious history, and so I lean more towards my personal interest in Western and American religious history, but I've tried to be broad in trying to, where appropriate, bring in Eastern Orthodoxy, experiences in Russia, China, where appropriate. Probably don't have as much on African Christianity in those early centuries. We are talking a little bit in the 20th and 21st centuries because there are some major developments there. So while it does skew towards Western history, and there are some historical reasons for that in addition to my own personal interests, I've tried to be fairly broad in thinking about, Christianity has had an influence politically or has been experienced politically in a variety of different settings. We'll also be looking at the influence and the interchange between Christianity and culture or Christianity and society. So we'll be thinking about the influence on music, the arts, literature, how people think about how they should live in culture, how culture has shaped Christianity. We'll certainly in various places talk about slavery and the ways in which Christianity supported slavery, as well as push for the abolition of slavery in those early centuries of our looking. But those are the kind of things we'll be talking about in culture and society. We certainly want to look at beliefs. What do Christians believe? What did they teach? And so the third section in each of those centuries will be on doctrine. Particularly, we'll be looking at doctrinal changes. What were some things that began to be more emphasized in certain periods? Were there new teachings, new doctrinal or theological developments? So we're particularly interested in change when it comes to doctrine. Although certainly we want to be historically responsible and say there's a lot of continuity as well in thinking about how from the very earliest centuries Christians worshiped Jesus as Lord, talked about the unity of God while also talking about God as being triune or three. So while we'll be focusing on change, we don't want to forget that there's a lot of continuity across Christianity when it comes to theology and doctrine as well. And then the last area that we'll look at in each of these centuries is Christian practice. Here too, the focus will be on change. We'll certainly have places to talk about continuity in the sense that Christians in the 16th and 17th centuries continued to baptize, they continued to observe the Lord's Supper or the Eucharist, but we want to pay attention to how those practices, in addition to other practices and developments, how they changed and developed over time, what new practices have been introduced in this time period, and what that can tell us about Christianity. And so each of the centuries will be organized in that way, and so we'll take some time to talk about, or in most cases, a class to talk about politics, a class to talk about culture and society, a lecture on doctrine, and a lecture on practice. On the syllabus, which again I would encourage you to spend some time with and examining, there is a series of objectives. These are things that if you successfully complete the course, you should be able to do. And as you would expect, some of that is content-oriented and thinking about there are some people and movements and beliefs and texts and events and practices that you should be able to talk about. And so, at the end of this course, you should be able to tell people who Jonathan Edwards is. You should be able to talk about Martin Luther. You should be able to talk about Martin Luther King. You should be able to talk about a variety of groups from the Anabaptists to the Mormons. And so you should be able to just briefly say something about those people and a lot of others. But there should also be, hopefully we'll have the time to develop the ability to talk about critically how the contemporary situation of Christianity has been influenced by those historical people, groups, beliefs, practices, events, etc. And so being able to discuss that, analyzing those, the actions and the thoughts, and talking about how politics and society and history and other aspects of culture, how all of those are intertwined with Christianity, and how Christianity influenced them and how Christianity was influenced by them. These are the things that you should be able to do as well at the end of this course. So not just being able to talk about specific people, but then also think about how Christianity has been shaped shaped by and has shaped a lot of what we experience in the contemporary setting. And the way that you will demonstrate this is through a variety of assessments or requirements, completing certain activities throughout the semester. Essentially, that your grade is based off of a couple of different things. Participation, or quote-unquote attendance, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Reading quizzes based off of the Gonzalez textbook, some essays, reflective essays on primary sources from the history of Christianity, 3 exams, as well as participating in posting on discussion boards. These are the components that make up the grade for this course. And so let's talk about each of these. The reading quizzes are based off of readings from the Gonzalez textbook. They are not based off of the lecture. They are not based off of any of the primary source readings that you will do. It is solely based off of the Gonzalez textbook. on Blackboard, hold on here a second, let me share my screen. On Blackboard, as you look over the things that are available on Blackboard, you will see in, hold on one second. You will see on the left-hand menu an item marked Key Things to Know. Use this list as you read through the different chapters of Gonzalez to help focus on what to pay attention to. In each of the chapters, these are the items that I want you to really focus on, not to say to exclude other aspects, but these are the things that I really want you to pay attention to. And it is from these key things to know, people, terms, movements, etc., that the reading quizzes will be, the questions from the reading quizzes will be taken. And so as you read through these chapters, highlight, underline, whatever you need to do to help you focus on these particular items to prepare you for those things. So the key things to know is an important aspect. And I just realized that I am showing you the face-to-face section. So let me change here a second. Your online Blackboard should look very much the same. There are a few differences though, so let me make sure to be pulling up the right one. The key things to know document, however, is also available on your version of Blackboard. Now, let's try this. I apologize for that. All right, so the key things to know. Again, giving you a list. In order to know when do I need to know these things, make sure to pay attention to the schedule. The schedule breaks down the different readings, topics, assignments that need to be done. The dates on the left-hand side line up with the dates of the face-to-face classes. And so if you need the discipline of being in a face-to-face class, you can follow this course calendar and use that to help you make sure to keep up. However, you do have some leniency compared to the face-to-face class, or flexibility is the term I wanted to use, in that there will be some areas where you aren't required to take the quiz, for example, on Gonzalez chapters 1 through 4 by Wednesday the 11th. Instead, you would have until Sunday the 15th. The only dates that aren't, or the only assignments that are not to be, or are not due on a Sunday, are the exams. So in week 7, exam 1 will be Monday, February 13th, and then exam 2 will be Monday, March 27th. But the list here helps you know what is going to be on each individual quiz. So the first quiz due next week is Gonzalez chapters 1 through 4. There are 2 ways to get to the reading quizzes. On course content, I have broken down each of the week's assignments for you. And so each week you can just open that folder. So for week 2, there are no reading quizzes due this week. So for week 2, you click on week 2, it gives you the different assignments that you are to do, what videos you're to watch, and then the quizzes, discussion posts, and the submission of your notes, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And so you can just get to the quiz from that point. So quiz 1, due January 15th by the end of the day. So that's before midnight, Monday morning, January 16th, you need to have completed this quiz. The quizzes are available and open now, so wait until you are ready to begin the quiz before you click begin. They are all active, so you can actually take the quiz, but make sure to, once you have started the quiz, that you're ready to take it. So one way is through the course content. The other way is through the quizzes and exams, which has all of the quizzes. The quiz lists what it is on, what it covers, and the due date as well. So you take the quizzes online through Blackboard. Each of the quizzes is 5 multiple choice questions based on that key things to know section. So those are the ones to pay attention to. Once you start the quiz, you have 10 minutes to complete it. If you are prepared for the quiz, meaning you've done the reading, you've paid attention to those terms, 10 minutes is plenty of time. It probably won't take you even that long. So 5 multiple choice questions online under quizzes and exams. There is the opportunity for 21 quizzes. I will drop the lowest. Usually there are no makeups, but like I said, if you have an issue getting the text, please let me know. Or if something else comes up. I mean, there's quite a bit of lead time, meaning that you can take the quiz quite a bit in advance, but and that's part of the reason why there are no makeups. If something happens during the taking of the exam, meaning that some sort of technology failure happens, please get in contact with me as soon as possible so we can see what we can do about it to make sure that you can complete the quiz or an exam if it happens during an exam, and make sure you get the opportunity to do your best on that. Another assignment or set of assignments for this course are primary source essays. That will involve the reading of specific documents or pieces of documents written by Christians throughout this time period, and it will be across the different time periods. These will all be online readings, so you're not required to get another book, and so I'll provide links to the reading, tell you what I want you to read, maybe a certain number of paragraphs, a certain number of pages, and that will give you an idea of what to read. They aren't available yet, but they'll be available soon. Again, they'll all be up so you can do them in advance if you want. They will roughly be tied to the similar time period that we're talking about, so that you'll have some familiarity with the time period and what's going on when you actually sit down to write. You're only required to write 5 essays, but there will be the opportunity for 6, meaning that that you only have to do 5. If you don't want to do the first one, you can do the last 5, and then you can kind of skip that first one, and you don't have to do the first one. Or you can do the first 5 and skip the last one. If you do submit all 6, I will take the 5 highest grades as well as provide bonus points for that. You know, this is a way to get some extra points in the semester. I'll provide further guidelines in a couple weeks as far as overview, but essentially what I'm looking for you to do in these essays, which you know, are short essays. We're talking you know, 500 words, so you know, we're not talking about a very large, a page and a half, double spaced. But essentially what you are required to do is to provide in the first half or so a brief overview of what is being talked about in this particular reading, and what's the point, and then secondly, from that, analysis. Now, what do I mean by analysis? Things like, does what this person says, does it make sense? Is it biblically accurate? Is there logical consistency to it? If we took this person's views, would that help us or would it hurt us? These are the kind of questions you should ask yourself after having read it. Thinking about what kind of lessons we could learn for today might be another way to analyze the source. So it's not just saying this is what this person said, but thinking about and reflecting on either the consequences or the meaning or the usefulness of a particular source. And so that's largely what I want you to do in those essays. It shouldn't be a very complicated assignment. It shouldn't take you very long to do, but it does require you to think and to you know, to go beyond just reading the text and saying this is what this person says. So there'll be 5 of those that are required, but there is that opportunity for the 6th one. Also important for the grades are 3 exams, 2 unit exams, and then the final. The unit exams are required to be completed on specific days. While each week, most assignments are not due until Sunday at 11:59, the unit exams must be completed. Unit 1 must be completed on February 13th. The second exam must be completed March 27th. On each of those days, you will have the entire day to take the exam. It will be open for you to take any time during that day. Once you start it, however, you only have 1 hour and 20 minutes to complete the exam, much like you would if you were in a face-to-face class. So you can start it at any time during that day, but only start it when you have enough time to complete it. And then, like I said, you'll have 1 hour and 20 minutes. And so that will be the case for both the 13th and the 27th. I will remind you as we get closer to each of those times. The unit exams will consist of usually some short answer questions or completion questions, just some basic general knowledge about people or movements or groups. There will also most likely be some multiple choice questions about the same types of things. Then there will also be an essay question that asks you to think broadly across the information that is discussed, and also talk about an evaluation of a particular thing related to, let's say, politics or doctrine or something like that. Study guides will be available at least 2 weeks before the exams so that you will have plenty of time to review and plenty of information as to what to focus on for the particular unit. The unit exams are not comprehensive, so the second exam will only cover that material from March 15th through whatever the class would be before March 27th. That is the first week after spring break. The final exam will be material, will include a section that is material covered since March 27th, but will also have a comprehensive section. The comprehensive section will not be as specific as the unit exams or the unit section of the final exam, but will be instead about broader themes or developments over time. Will be an essay component as opposed to multiple choice or a short answer that will ask you to draw some things together across the entire course. In many respects, the final will be similar to previous exams in that it will be similar types of questions, and then of course that comprehensive component. There will be a study guide provided, and you will have an hour and 50 minutes to complete the exam. I have not seen the final exam calendar yet for spring. Last time I looked, it was not available. So I will get you that specific date as soon as I know it, so that you will know what day the final exam is. Much like the unit exams, you will have the entire day in which to start it, but once you start it, you will have an hour and 50 minutes to complete it. You will also be expected to do discussion board posts. That information as well is available on Blackboard. Let me share my screen here again. Available both through the course content, particular week, discussion posts for week 2, or you can go through the discussion board and go through it that way. In most cases, in most weeks, you will be required to do 4 different posts. The first post must be completed each week by Wednesday before midnight. The rest of the posts have to be completed by Sunday before midnight. This allows students, all of you, to have the opportunity to respond to a variety of different situations. You can respond directly to questions that I ask. You can respond to other students, or you can just post on something that was particularly interesting to you in a specific week. So if you are a person who likes to get all of your work done fairly early and you want to get started each week and get your discussion posts done, you might not have as many people to respond to as you would later in the week when other students will have completed some of this. So usually I have provided several different questions each week, so you have the opportunity to just respond to what I've written, or you can just post on something that you think is interesting. The first post, or at least one of the posts, has to be at least 100 words. Has to be something substantial that is either, again, in response to one of my questions, in response to another student, or just something that you thought was particularly interesting on that. So you have to have at least one response that is 100 words. The other responses have to be at least 25 words. So you can't just respond to somebody and say, I agree, or good point. If you find you want to respond to some other person's comments, that's fine. And saying partly in the response, I agree, is fine, but you should say something more or advance what you are saying, and not just say I agree. You know, maybe saying why you agree, or I agree with what you're saying here, but have you considered, you know, these other things? Again, these posts aren't long, relatively speaking, and each individual post doesn't have a great weight in the overall overall course grade. But if you let them slide and you don't do them, it will add up and have a negative effect on your grade. So make sure to keep up with those posts and have them completed in a timely manner each week, not only so that you can have your work done, but to help others so that they can be thinking and have some things to respond to as well. As with any of these assignments, if you're unsure what I'm looking for or you have further questions, please let me know. I think that the quizzes should be fairly self-explanatory. Hopefully the primary source assignments, once you begin to see them, will be self-explanatory, and some of these other things will be pretty upfront. You have an idea of what I'm looking for, but please reach out to me and let me know what I can do to help you at any point. Each semester I break down a grade, or I use points to determine a grade based on 1,000 points for a semester. I do this for a couple of reasons, and if you've had me before, you've heard me say this. First, I do it because it simply involves addition. Instead of having to figure out percentages and averages, you can simply look at your grade and add up the points that you have and look at how many points are left in the semester and think about, okay, what do I need to do? Right now, let's say we're in the semester. I've completed exam 1. I've completed 1 or 2 primary essays. I've done some discussion posts. Here we are at midterm. Here's where the total points I have. Now, I want to get an A in this class. So, given the points that are left, what do I need to do on the second exam, on the rest of the primary source essays, on the final, in order to achieve that? And so it's just addition and subtraction as opposed to doing any sort of multiplication, working with percentages in order to figure out your grade. But again, at any point, if you're not sure, feel free to contact me. So the first reason is so that it's a little easier to keep track of your grade. Second is no one assignment is going to completely destroy your grade because of the total number of points. Now, if you don't do the reading quizzes, if you don't do the discussion posts, if you do poorly on the first exam, these things are going to add up. But again, no one thing by itself is going to totally destroy your semester. And so with all of the things together, doing it out of 1,000 points allows you some flexibility, allows you some leeway in case, the first exam you're just unprepared and, you only get 150 out of 200 points or 120 points out of 200 points. That's not going to ultimately wreck your semester. There's still enough opportunities to bring that grade back up. The grading scale here gives you an idea of the point values. So 1,000 to 900 points to 1,000 is an A, 800 to 899 is a B, 700 to 799 is a C, etc. Again, this should give you an idea of where you are in a semester and what you can do to achieve the grade that you want. With taking an online course, and if this is your first online course, this is probably something that that will be a different type of experience for you. If you've had online courses before, you already recognize that unless you are proactive and stay up with the course, it is very easy to get behind. And if you get behind, it is very difficult to kind of catch up. And so in order to kind of keep you on track, there are a couple of things that I do. There are the requirements like reading quizzes that are every week. But then there are also a requirement that you submit your notes from watching the video lectures that are also required each week. This essentially is like attending the class, like you would coming to a face-to-face class where you would take notes. I'm asking you to do that as well. So as you watch the videos each week, you should take notes on that information. Now, particularly what I'm looking for you to do is demonstrate to me, okay, this person has watched the video, they have engaged with the video, they know what's been talked about, etc. So there's that for me, so I can feel confident, okay, this person is engaged with this course, just like if you came to class physically, in a physical position. But then also, these are the things that you're going to be studying from, and so instead of trying to go back before the first exam and copy everything down quickly, or trying to find information, you already have the information because you've been regularly taking notes of the lectures as well as doing the reading quizzes. So each week, you are required to submit notes from the lectures. Now, again, going back to that schedule, you will see that each week there are normally 2 lectures. All right. Now, week 3, Monday the 16th, is Martin Luther King Day, so there's no class in the face-to-face class, so there's only 1 lecture that week. Exam weeks, there are only 1 lecture. And a couple other weeks are like that. Spring break, of course, there are no lectures. So for each week, you'll be taking notes on essentially 2 lectures, with some exceptions where there's only 1 or perhaps none. You can either submit your actual notes, meaning, here's what the notes I took on this lecture, or you can do a 500-word summary that gives a good overview of what was discussed. However, it can't just be the PowerPoint slides. The videos you watch, you'll be predominantly focused on the PowerPoint that would be in a face-to-face class. So I don't want just the bullet points. You need to be taking notes on what I say about those bullet points. And so don't just copy the bullet points down, write down the other things that I'm saying as well, so you have all that information, and submit them by the end of the week. Now, there are a couple ways you can do that. Some people prefer to take their notes on a laptop or a tablet or something like that. And so that makes it fairly easy to just submit a file to me. If you prefer to take notes by hand, that's perfectly fine. In fact, there are some studies that suggest that writing it out by hand is actually better to retain the material. You can simply take a picture of your notes and submit that, or you can scan your notes in through a scanning utility. Whatever you need to do, and if you have some difficulty, let me know of some ways that we can work together to to figure out what's going to be best to help you submit those. But each week you need to submit those. That demonstrates that you are engaged with the class. The other thing that is important here as well is that federal guidelines, especially related to financial aid, require us to pay attention to students being engaged in online classes, that they're actually participating in an online class. And so if you're not taking notes on the videos, if you're not completing reading quizzes, if you're not doing any discussion posts, first of all, it's going to be difficult for you to do well in the course because those things are adding up. And then secondly, if you've not participated in the course for 21 straight days, you could end up being administratively withdrawn. You're taken out of the course, and that could affect your financial aid and some other financial consequences as well. So keep up with those notes to demonstrate you're engaging the material, you are participating in the course. That way, if there's a question, I can say, yes, this person is engaged in the course, so please distribute their financial aid, or make sure that they are continued to be registered in that class, etc. So make sure to complete those notes every week. You can submit your notes a variety of ways. You can, as I said before, depending on the format, they might be pictures, they might be a scan file, it might be a word processing file. You can submit them either through the student notes submission link, and then submitting according to the specific week of the semester, or if you go back to the course content under the particular week, you can submit them that way as well. Just create a journal entry and attach or write your 500-word summary, or whatever format is going to work best for you. I try to grade everybody fairly. Try to pay attention to making sure that the quizzes have the appropriate answers. Some assignments are graded automatically, like the reading quizzes. Since they are multiple choice, you can find out very quickly what your grade was. And if I've set up the question correctly, you can see what the right answer is or should have been. In most cases, it is what it is. If the answer was A and you chose B, there's not much to dispute. Now, if you think, there are certainly, if a question was worded poorly or something like that, there might be a place where multiple choice questions could be in dispute. But there are other things related to the essays, discussion posts, etc., where after something was graded, you might have a question, or you might have a concern that maybe I didn't pay close attention to something that you said, that you thought this assignment should actually receive more points than what it received. I'm certainly willing to go back over and look at a graded assignment. And so once you've received the grade for it, once it's been released back to you after grading, you have 3 days. This is a university policy. This is not my policy. This is a university policy. You have 3 days to express that concern to me, and I will look over it and either express to you, here's why this grade is the way it is, or after looking over it, I might say, okay, you're right. This is actually I missed this, or I didn't add up these points correctly, or whatever. So if you do have a question about your grade, I am a human being. I make mistakes. Feel free to question me, to ask me to justify a specific grade if you feel that it is unfair, because I do want to try and be fair to everybody, grade everybody in a fair way. So if you do have any questions, make sure to do that as soon as possible. I try to have all material graded within 7 days after the due date, and so within a week. Again, reading quizzes, they're automatically graded, and so that by the end of the time that you've completed the quiz, you should be able to see what your grade is. Now, you might not be able to go back and review until after the due date of that quiz, which is a benefit, so you can go back and review it. But in that case, I would give you there is kind of a little bit of an extension there of that grading dispute for multiple choice questions, the quizzes. But you should be able to see your grade after you've taken the exam, or excuse me, after you've taken the reading quizzes. Other things require me to actually spend time reading it and analyzing it, and have you completed the requirements, etc. And so I try to complete those as soon as possible, but my goal is at least, at the latest, a week after it's been after the due date. So I try to get that back. If for some reason it's going to be longer than a week, I will let you know what to expect, when to expect it. When it comes to online courses and assignments, one of the things that can be tempting is to simply find things on the internet, and this can be true even in face-to-face classes, that would be able to be submitted as your own work. You're trying to shortcut some of the work. Just because this course is online doesn't mean that it is going to necessarily be easy. Essentially, you are getting a face-to-face experience as far as like what's required, what to expect, but in an online setting where you have a little bit more flexibility as far as when you're going to participate in some of these things. That being said, there's still the temptation to sometimes shortcut some things. For all the assignments in this course, you should not need to do any outside work other than the reading of the textbook, the reading of the primary sources. Those are the only outside materials you need to consult. There are no research papers in this course. The writings that are done, the primary source essays, are asking you to engage a specific particular source. So I'm giving you the source, telling you, here, look at this source, read it, tell me what you think about it. You do not need to consult any outside work other than what is given to you, either through the textbook or through these primary sources. If, however, you do use a source for, let's say, a primary source paper, other than the source for the assignment, let's say you're not particularly sure what it means, and instead of talking to me about it, which is certainly an opportunity, if an option. If you don't understand something that you're reading, contact me about it. Let's talk together. But if you choose to Google something, for example, be very, very, very careful that you cite that material appropriately, that you give credit to whatever sources you use. Do not try to come up with the excuse of, well, I looked at another website, but I don't remember what it was. If you are looking at other websites, which you do not need to do, then make sure to keep that information so that when you're writing your essay, you can include that you consulted this particular source. So don't use someone else's work as your own. Don't use that without giving them credit. And essentially, you should not use any outside people or material for this course other than what is presented. So ultimately here, it is a matter of integrity. It might seem like, oh, I'm just cutting corners. But no, it's about how you're presenting yourself and how that accords with Christian values of honesty, integrity, of loving a neighbor as oneself. And so essentially what we're doing here, if we take somebody else's material and not give them credit, you are in a sense academically stealing from someone. You are not loving your neighbor as yourself, because no one of us would want something that we've worked hard on to have been taken from us and presented from by someone else as their work. And so the same kind of attitude should be present in how we use other sources appropriately. Again, you do not need to do any of that outside work for any of the assignments. But if you do, be very careful how you use it and use it appropriately. If you have questions about this, please, this is very, very important. If you have questions about how to cite something, how to use something, how to quote something, whether or not something should be quoted or cited, etc., feel free to talk to me about it. Talk to me about it before you submit it, because once it's submitted, if you've plagiarized, if you've taken somebody else's words or ideas and used them as your own, then we have a different situation. That's a situation of a violation of the Academic Honor Code. So keep that in mind. If you need academic accommodations, I had pulled this slide from a previous presentation, and so I did not adjust this. I apologize for that. The syllabus has the correct information. And if you need academic accommodations, you need to get in contact with Project Key. You are probably already aware of that, but you need to get in touch with Dr. Rochelle Schaefer at Project Key, not Pat Morrow or Heidi Guy. So if that is additional time on quizzes or exams or some other academic accommodation, please get in contact with me as soon as possible about that. Please get in contact with them first, and they'll get in contact with me about what accommodations need to be made and how best to achieve that. So if that is something that applies to you, please do that as soon as possible if you have not done it already, so that we can make sure that you are on the road to success. That completes our overview. Oh, one last thing, contacting me. Sorry about that. Getting in touch with me. Email is perhaps one of the best ways to get in contact with me. It's good because it keeps a record of our conversation, so if there's ever a question about, well, you said such and such, and well, I told you that in response to this, we can always go back and confirm what's been said. So email is probably the best way to get in contact with me. I am, however, available in my office, specifically Mondays and Wednesdays, 8:30 to 9:45, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:30 to 2:45, for you to, if you are on campus but taking this online, you can stop by. Getting contact with me through phone, if that is necessary. You know, so those are times where I'm specifically in my office, available. Use it to get in contact with me, but obviously with email, you can email anytime. I try to respond to emails within 24 hours. If you have not heard from me within 48 hours, please email me again. Perhaps it got lost in my feed, or I read it and, oh, I need to respond to that, and then forgot. So if you don't hear from me within 2 days, please get in contact with me. Now that doesn't include like weekends or spring break or something else like that. But feel free to get in contact with me about whatever is necessary, and especially if things are coming up, personal problems, work situation, family issues. The sooner you can get in contact with me, the better. That way we can make adjustments as necessary to help with your situation. Regarding what else to complete this very first week of class, I would encourage you to also take a look at a video that is an overview of the importance of studying church history, what that provides for us. It is going to be available, through the Week 1 folder, and so there'll be a link there to that video. Complete notes for this video, just giving a brief overview of what we talked about, as well as the overview of the church history video. It's from a Survey of Church History class, so if you've taken that class or you've taken another church history course with me, it should be familiar. But complete those notes, submit all of that by the end of this first week, and that will account for your engagement this week. So there's not much this first week to complete, but make sure to complete that. Make sure to go to the discussion board and on the student introduction post, if you've not already, introduce yourself to me if we've not had class before, or introduce yourself to your fellow students, so we have some sort of community, in some cases, here, even though we are separated by time and distance. As you go throughout the semester, many of the videos have been recorded from previous semesters. And so there might be assignments talked about at the beginning or an end of a video that do not apply. In previous versions of this course, I required a research paper. There is no research paper required for this course. So you might hear on the videos something about a research paper. Ignore that. Excuse me, previous versions of this course, I had a midterm and a final. This time we're doing 3 exams. So again, you can ignore that information. So just focus on the lecture content and not necessarily anything about announcements or other requirements regarding assignments. I will make sure to notify you and remind you, usually a couple weeks in advance, about the different things that are coming. So, feel free to ignore those early or late announcements regarding assignments that do not apply to you. But if you do ever have any questions about anything I talk about in the lectures, feel free to get in contact with me. Let me know what I can do to help you out. Looking forward to a great course and looking forward to seeing what you are going to do with the semester and how well you're going to achieve in this course. So hopefully an enjoyable course, hopefully some things that will interest you, inform you, make you a better person as you get to know about some things in the past of Christianity.